Okay, well, we're going to get started here. We're going to start with this first technique I was telling you about, and there's some variations on it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach these to you in C, because if you know your chords, then what you can do is apply what you've learned in the key of C to any chord that you want. Okay? Because this is not really about giving you... I'm going to show you patterns you can use your hands with. But you can do this in any chord, and you can do it in any inversion of any chord. And I will demonstrate that, but we'll use the key of C because it's always a good place to start. It's a simple place to play, and so it's a good place to learn your foundation, and then you can start expanding it and just try playing the patterns over some other chords, you know, some things with some sharps and flats in them. So, but the most basic thing, now I teach a technique in the original Become Your Own Rhythm section that can be used for ballads. It's just about tempo and intensity, and it's one where you're just playing kind of quarter notes over a chord. Like, so let's take a C chord and let's form it like this: C, E, and G, and we'll start middle C. Okay, and then you do octave C's in your left hand. And what the left hand is doing is following a pattern that goes like this: bum, 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 bum. Now, what I explained in that video is that the kick drum of a drum set, which is the bass drum, you know, and they call it the kick drum because it's got a little pedal that you pump on it, and when you push the pedal down, then this little thing goes kunk, 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 you know, and so it's looking like you're kicking it, and it's down there by your foot. The kick drum in almost all rock beats of any kind, whether it's a ballad or anything, is going thump, 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 or thump, 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 thump. Okay, and that is one of the things that gives a piece of popular music its pace, is what the kick drum is doing. And then over the top of it, so I'm gonna play actually some drum beat here for a second to show you this. So there's a kick drum sound: thump, 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 thump. Okay, and what that does, sorry, I was just maneuvering the camera for a second. What's happening over the top of it then is that on a little hi-hat cymbal, which are the cymbals where there's one on the bottom, one on the top, and they're psst, and then when you let the foot pedal off, they raise and they go psst, psst, psst. See, when the foot pedal's depressed and you hit it, it sounds like that. When you hit it and the pedal's not up, it sounds like that. So what they're doing is they keep the hi-hat depressed and they're hitting like eighth notes over it. So dum, 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 dum. Now they throw in the snare drum to throw a little bit of extra color in there, and it sounds like this. And it's really what gives that piece of music its pace and what makes you tap your toe to it and kind of be endeared to it is, in fact, this combination of having thump, 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 thump underneath a more constant kind of steady rhythm. Like in this case, it's eighth notes. But it could be quarter notes. See, listen, it's a similar effect if I play quarter notes instead of eighth notes on that hi-hat sound. Now the snare drum adds some color, but it's really not necessary. You could not have that and still have the pace you're looking for. So it could just be. Okay? I'm demonstrating that for you because the basis of this whole deal is that you're mirroring the kick drum with your left hand. You're also playing the right bass note, which you need for the melodic foundation of everything. But what you're doing more than anything is you're simultaneously using your left hand to provide the foundational note that you need, and you are also using it to mirror that kick drum and give yourself the foundation for some pace. So you're going dum 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 dum. Then when you come in on your right hand, if you play kind of a steady beat like quarter notes over a chord, see how it fills out. That's what I love about the piano, is here's this instrument where you can actually do the job of a drummer and a bass player, and then also it can be melodic. You know, it can fill in all the chords and everything. It's an amazing, amazing instrument. It's what I loved about it when I got started. It's what I continue to discover more about it every day that I work and love about it more. So now that I've given you that little bit of foundation there, I wanted to demonstrate that. That very same concept works whether you're playing a really hard driving song or whether you're playing a softer song. I'll give you an example. You can use this exact technique, boom, 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 on a ballad. It's just about you don't hit the keys quite so hard, you know. It's a little more tender, so you don't hit them with the ferocity and the intensity. And usually the tempo is a little slower, but not always, so it can be Daniel is traveling tonight on a plane. I can see the red tail lights headed to Spain. Oh, and I can see Daniel waving goodbye. Oh, it looks like Daniel. It must be the clouds in my eyes. So see, that's a low-key, soft song, and it works. You can use that exact technique. You know, you could use this technique to say, we played this earlier, but let it be, 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 dum, dum, dum. See, now notice the bass is always doing some dum, 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 but sometimes it's in more of a double time. In Daniel, we were going dum, 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 dum. But in Let It Be, we were slowing it down, dum, 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 da, dum. See? So it's just a slower tempo. Works fine. You're just playing quarter notes. Let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Okay? So that pattern works just fine. You don't have to ornament it. The first technique I'm going to teach you, though, is a variation of that pattern that I think tends to soften things up a little bit. And it also adds a little more pace, which gives you some options, and I'll explain what I mean here. So let's go back to our C chord. Your bass note, your bass line is going to be bum, dum, 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 dum. That's our tempo. Okay, so instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 4 on our C chord, which for the sake of making it easy, just form it here, C, E, and G. But if you want, you can form it like this, G, C, and E, or you can form it like this, E, G, and C. It does not matter what inversion you're on, okay? It truly does not matter. A C chord is a C chord. Use your ear and decide your preference for the way you want it voiced, okay? Because that's what I do. I'm usually pretty much lazy. I know my inversions really well, so I just put my hand down, and as I start playing, depending on where I'm going, I use the least amount of effort possible. So instead of having to go to an F chord and go, then back down here, I just go. There's my G chord. You know, I don't want to have to move my hand any more than I have to. You know, I mean, it's efficiency for me, but. You can do whatever you want. If you really like the voicing of the chord and you just like the way it sounds better when it's in this inversion, then use it. It's fine. There are no rules on that whatsoever. 0 rules. And if you've ever had a music teacher tell you that there were rules, they were lying, they didn't know what they were talking about. Music is an interpretive art. There are no rights and wrongs. There are simply what sounds better and less better in your mind. So, and that's totally subjective. So be sure that you use your own creativity. Don't ever let anyone tell you differently in music. If it doesn't involve your own creativity, it's not music. Okay? We're not robots. We're creative beings, and we're making art here. So, sorry, I don't mean to preach to you, but that's just something that's very important to me to get across in my lessons. So, find your C chord. And rather than just playing straight quarter notes like that, what I want you to do is take your top 2 fingers that you're playing with. So you're probably playing with with your thumb, middle, and pinky if you're playing it here. If you're playing it here, you might be using the same keys. But whatever it is, your top 2 fingers that you're playing out of your triad, I want you to depress those keys. So in this case, it'd be like an E and a G. And then pretend like your hand's on a little bit of a hinge here. Like that. Alright? So you're going to play this, and it's going to be 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, it'll be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So on the downbeat, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're going to use your top 2 fingers. Okay? On the off beats, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you're going to use your thumb and come down on whatever the bottom note in your preferred triad is. So in this case, it'd be a C. So watch this. I'll play it slow. This tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. See, it's that simple. So watch the effect that has. Here was what the original pattern was. Now listen to the change in the timbre when we use this. See how that softens it up? Just really softens it up and invites it to be a little more tender. Maybe I didn't love you quite as whatever as I should have. I don't know all the words to this song, but it's a pretty one and I should learn it. You are always on my mind. You are always on my mind. Now, would that song work with the original technique if I were just going... Maybe I didn't love you. Sure it would. Quite as whatever as I should have. But it adds a little bit of texture. It adds a little bit of depth and dimension to go, maybe I didn't love you. And now notice as I'm moving, like I went from a C chord here to a G chord, which happened to be over a 3 bass, which was the B, but that doesn't matter. So I went to a G chord, and I am using an inversion of the G chord, because again, that efficiency of I don't want to move my hand any more than I have to. I was here. The quickest way to get to a G chord from here is right here. And I use the exact same principle. Top 2 fingers depressed, and I use my thumb as a hinge. There's my next chord, and I could have gone here. That's another inversion of that A minor chord, but the principle stays the same. Your top 2 notes in your triad are depressed, and then the offbeat is with your thumb. So however you want to do it, if you're one of those, if you're a relatively, new player and you're not that comfortable and familiar with all your inversions, but you know all your chords well if you play them in this root fashion with the root and then the 3 and the 5, and so you're playing it like this. That's fine. It does not matter. It does not matter, but that technique, whatever your top 2 notes are and your top 2 fingers you're choosing to play them, that's the downbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. The offbeats is your thumb on the bottom note. It does not have to be the tonic note or the root or the key note. It just has to be whatever the bottom note of the triad that you're playing is. If you play a more complex chord, I'm going to get into this in the Ballad chords video, but if you play a more complex chord and it's got not just a triad, but maybe 4 notes, if you choose to play 4 notes at a time, you always want the offbeat to just be 1 note, just your thumb. It's going to be really hard. It's not impossible, but let's say I was doing a C major 7th chord, just for example, which is like that. And I was trying to play the top 2 here, and then the bottom 2. That's really, it sounds cool enough, but I think it's distracting and not even as effective. Simple it up. Go ahead and play the top 3, and then hinge down on your thumb, just like you would if you were only playing 3 notes instead of 4. Okay, so that's your technique. That's the pattern. Now let's talk about what you can do with the bass. Here's what's absolutely marvelous about this. Between using the original kind of what I call the vanilla technique of just playing the quarter notes on your chords, now you can use your left hand and your right hand and build intensity as needed throughout the song, because you add pace with each thing that you add into it. Let me give you an example. Perhaps you want to start out, let's say that you have a song that the recording, the original recording, it starts out with like just 1 instrument, and then throughout the song more instruments are added, and by the end of the song you have the whole band, drums, bass, all of that. And you want to reflect that even though you're only playing it on 1 instrument, just the piano. Well, you can do that. You can build intensity. So you can take away that rhythm, that dum, 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 and just play your bass root note and just sort of play whole notes or long tones, and only start, like, play at the beginning of what would be a new measure, or if you're going to change notes. For example, so let's take that song, that Willie Nelson song, "You Are Always on My Mind." So watch how you could build this using these techniques. So we start out, we're just going to play quarter notes, and we're not going to add that kick drum pace yet at the very beginning on the left hand. So watch what I do. Maybe I didn't love you quite as whatever as I should have. Watch this. Now we add the kick drum pace in the left hand and keep the right hand on quarter notes. Adds a little bit of dimension. Doesn't make it as full as it can be yet, but it adds dimension. It builds a little bit of intensity. So we were here. Da, 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 da. But you were always on my mind. On my mind. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do do. On my mind. Now we add in this, and we've added as much intensity as we have. We've do 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 do. We're on the last verse. Do 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 do. On my mind. You are always on my mind. You are always on my mind. Okay, see how you can build intensity with that? Because you have essentially you have 4 separate patterns that you can use. You can use the very, very stripped down so that it just sounds like it's one instrument, of course, which you have to use for effectiveness sometimes, and that's where you play no kick drum pattern with your left hand. Just play the long tones and the straight quarter notes. Now if you choose to, then you can add pace to that by either keeping the quarter notes and adding the kick drum rhythm in your left hand, or you can keep the long tones down here and simply use your hinge technique, okay, in the right hand. So listen to the change. You're here on, and you have long tones going in the bass, so you're going along here. Do 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 do. then you have, of course, your straight quarter notes up here with your kick drum pace and the bass. And then, of course, you have both of them going at the same time. Hinge up here, kick drum bass and the bass line. Okay, so those are 4 different techniques that can all be used kind of interchangeably. They work in the same settings, but they all create a different effect. They create different levels of pace, different levels of intensity, different levels of emotion. And that's what's great, is that you can take this one instrument and play something as stripped down as it can possibly be, and then you can add all of this depth and color and range to it by basically making a couple of very, very small adjustments. And I think that's so exciting because, my heavens, I mean, you know, most people that are in music, I mean, literally, when you think about this, of all the instruments that are out there, other than the guitar, there's hardly another one out there that people play that they don't have to have other people with them to make a big sound. I mean, think about how privileged we are to be playing this, you know? I mean, I love playing in groups. I play in groups all the time, and I play with accompaniment tracks all the time and all that good stuff, but holy cow, what an absolute privilege it is that we are on this instrument that just it by itself is enough to fill a room up and to give a song the arc and the growth and the depth and the range that it deserves, you know, without having to have a band where you have this person come in here and this person come in here. That is so cool, and that's what I love most about playing the piano. I hope that you appreciate that too. So that's your first technique. I think it's an extremely useful technique. The other thing that you can do, and I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but particularly if you bought the Ballad pack, then included in that is a video called Ballad Chords, and that's where I'm going to teach you kind of some really unique, more ornamented chords than just your basic majors and minors that work really well in ballads. And that's where you can even give it more depth, is to start throwing in those ornamented grace notes into the equation. So I'm not going to teach you. I mean, if you can pick it up by watching in this video, that's fine. I'm going to do a little demonstration, but I'm not really going to go through and teach you the nuts and bolts, because I'm going to teach those chords and some basic application, because in that video I assume that you've seen this video, and then you can take the techniques in this video and apply them with these new chords. But see, here's your major chord, and then here's a minor chord. But listen to what happens when we ornament it with some special ballad chords. Okay? And you know, when you buy sheet music and you look at the chord symbols, sometimes they're going to tell you this is an added 9 or this is a 6 or a major 7 or whatever. A lot of times they don't. A lot of times they keep it to the very basic major, minor, whatever. And then it's up to you. If you want to ornament it, you can. You don't have to. There isn't anything wrong with it. Sometimes your ear tells you less is more. Sometimes simple is better, and that's fine. Again, there's no right or wrong answers, but you get to be the creative genius. You get to look at that root chord, if it's a C, and decide for yourself, you know? I really like the way that sounds when I throw the added 9 in there. I like that better than just this. You get to decide. And that is so cool. And you have the rhythm pattern to use, and it really doesn't change at all. It's just a matter of now you have 3 notes being depressed instead of 2 when you play on your hinge technique. Big deal. No big deal at all, but you get to decide and you get to craft these songs with your own personality in them, and that's really when music gets fun. Because the simple fact of the matter is, there's always a great debate out there about, oh, you know, this song sounds best when it's done this way. This song sounds best when it's done this way. That is a false argument, folks, and I'll tell you why. Because everybody has their own mind and their own set of ears. Songs sound best to you a certain way. And what I guarantee you 100% of the time, it will always sound best. If you're playing a song, it will always sound best when you're doing it the way you feel it. Okay? The rest of the world will pick up on it if your heart's in it, if you feel it that way. And I'm not talking about, you know, ornamenting it just for the sake of ornamenting it because you want to impress people. I'm talking about the creative genius inside of you made a decision. In these places it sounds best to be simple. In these places it sounds best to be a little more complicated. And that's what sounds best to me. That's what feels right for this song when I'm playing it. When you do that, the rest of the world is going to agree with you because it will be an expression of who you authentically are. And that's always the best music. 100% of the time, it's always the best music. Most people can't even identify what they don't like about when they hear music they don't like. They can't tell you what they don't like about it. They just know they don't like it. Well, usually they don't like it because it's phony. So, anyway, so that's our first technique, and we're going to move on to the next technique here just shortly. If you'll refer to your chapter list, I do have it broken down when this one starts, so that if you have a download or a DVD, either one, you can just scurry to the next section if you already have this down, or you can come back and revisit this. But I try to set it up so it'll be really easy for you to maneuver to the next spot in the video for yourself, so that when you sit down to practice, you're not wasting time having to find the right spot. You know what section you wanted to go work on. So take a look at that, and I look forward to showing you the next rhythm pattern. All right, see you there.